Well, you guys are asking for him. The 2024 Tackle World Bundaberg Lake Monduran Family Fishing Classic Barra Buster Champion Angler. Joshy, come in, mate. Well, as a lot of you guys know, Joshy took out the Barra Buster Award at our Tackle World Bundaberg Lake Monduran Family Fishing Comp this year. And if you don't know, that is the 5 biggest barra. So the angler with the 5 biggest barra, and that is Morty. Now, listen, mate, we're getting asked a lot of questions. We're getting phone calls, we're getting messages, you're getting messages. People are coming in store. They want to know how you did it. So I've got together a little list here of questions that we are going to be talking about. So the first one, where were you fishing?
I was fishing straight out from the boat ramp, right in the main basin. I found from that buoy line all the way down to Bass Strait, there was a lot of big fish sitting in there.
Right, so no secret spots. You weren't up in little Morty's honey hole up the dam. You were right out the front of the boat ramp.
I was out in front of everyone putting in, and I was catching in front of them, so.
Right, cheeky bugger, catching fish while they're putting their boat in. Alrighty, so that covers where? No secret spots, right out the front of the boat ramp in that main basin. Now, this time of year, we always get these barra coming into the main basin because they do want to get out of the dam, they want to breed, and they are anticipating rain this time of year. We get a lot of rain, and that dam runs the risk of spilling over. So these barra, they want to go. They want to launch into some salt water. So that is why this happens. So it's a good little tip every year. About this time, they start entering in there, don't they? Okay, so the next one, trolling or casting, what did you do mainly?
I done a little bit of casting, but I found trolling was the way to go because I was getting the numbers.
Alrighty, so you're getting a lot more fish on the troll. And is this maybe the fish were moving quick in that main basin, they weren't in the one spot, so trolling was the easiest way to intercept them?
That's correct, Corey. I found that a lot of the fish were moving really fast and it was hard to sort of stay on them if you're casting. So what I was doing, I was trolling and trying to intercept them as they're moving through.
Okay, so trolling, you found that you intercepted most of the fish that way, and that meant you were constantly covering ground and finding new fish, yeah?
That's correct, yes.
Alrighty, so with trolling, we get a few questions. Speed and depth are your main two. What speed were you trolling at?
I was trolling from anywhere from 3 kilometers right up to about 6 kilometers.
Okay. Yep, so about 3K to 6K to get most of your bites. And were you varying that as well just to see?
I would vary it because sometimes you'd have a bit of a lull and you'd think, oh, what am I doing wrong?
Yep.
So what I would do, I would either change the lure or change the speed of what,
Okay. So I assume you've got a sounder.
I do have a sounder, yes sir.
All right, so were these barra, firstly, could you see them on the sounder? And 2, what depth range were they mainly sitting in?
All right, so I've got a Humminbird Helix 10. I found that was probably one of the standout sounders. So what I was seeing from anywhere from about that 5 foot, which is what, 1.5 meters, right down to about 20 foot, which is about 6 meters. Yep. So a lot of your thermal line was around that, say, 15, 10 foot sort of area. And then the barra would be sitting in there. And most of the time, if they were hungry, they would be angled up like that. And they would be looking at your lure going over. When they're looking up like that, that's when you know they're hungry.
All right, so to sum that up, most of the fish were about that 2 to 6 meter mark.
Yes.
And they were sitting just above that thermocline level in the dam there. And if you're seeing barra that are slightly nose up, they are probably more inclined to feed. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, man, definitely.
All right. Now, did you also, so as well as seeing these fish on the sounder and going past them and getting the bite, did you get any random bites just in the middle of nowhere, you didn't see fish, and were they coming in from the side maybe?
Yes, because I'm moving with such pace, I'd find I'd be coming in from the side, I'd see nothing, and then all of a sudden, bzzz, off goes the lure.
Right, so you don't even need a sounder. You can just have a good crack out there, just troll around, and you are likely to get onto one anyway.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Alrighty, so that covers trolling, speed, depth. Another one that we're getting touched on, if you know Morty, you know he has a lot of lures. And mate, I saw your couple of purchases prior to this comp. You absolutely loaded up, and you brought me a couple here. Yep. Now, any of these lures, did any of them get bit? Are these all the ones that got bit?
These are all the lures that I caught fish on.
Alrighty, so these are the ones that were working. Now, out of these lures that are here, I've got my eye on one, which is a standout Mondi favorite. It's the Molex 140s. You've got a couple of different colors here.
Yep.
So they obviously work for you on the weekend.
Yep, they work for me on the weekend. They're the three colours that would definitely stand out throughout the range. But I've found, obviously your perch has always been a good colour and your ghost bass. So
if anyone knows a Molex, you know you have to upgrade the ring and the treble. So I see you've got some Optia 48 kilo rated treble split rings here, and you've also got some BKK Raptors. So I assume you whack those guys on there.
Yep, so what I'd do, I would take these split rings off here, and then I would upgrade that with Raptor in the size 1.
Yep.
And then from there, I would also cut these fins off here.
Okay, the bottom fins, and that gives it a little more body roll, doesn't it?
Because they're a stabilizer,
Yep.
what it does is it gives it that better roll, so it would be rolling like that.
Okay.
And then another thing I would do, I would take off this spinner, and then down in here, they actually crimp it. So what I would do is get my crimpers out and actually crimp it down properly, because they don't do it super tight to handle a fish.
Okay, so you were putting a rear treble on them, but what you were doing was actually going in there and re-crimping it, because generally that crimp is what fails.
Yes, that's what fails. And then I find, because it's got wire in there, that's enough. It's going to hold it. You're not going to break it.
Okay, so that's for your Molex. Now you've also got some Irukandji tackle, Sicario DTFs. These are the pre-rig Sicarios.
Yep.
So I assume there you didn't do any upgrading, you just ran them straight out of the packet?
These are your perfect weight, and they've also got your BKK Vipers on there. So I find they're a strong enough hook that they're not going to break. I didn't have any failures on this lure.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's another one, if you're not into this whole re-rigging, the Sicario DTFs, straight out of the box.
Yeah.
All right, now we've got a couple lures here as well that maybe not a lot of people use on the dam, but they are proven barra slayers, and that is the Cast Prodigy soft plastics. You've brought me up the 8-inch, and also a couple of Berkeley Shimmer Pro rigs. Mate, what is it about this Cast Prodigy in the 8-inch that got you intrigued, and what made you throw it? What do you think? Why do you think it works?
So with this guy, I found that big tail would really get that thumping action going on, and you would see it on your rod. You would see the rod going boom, boom, boom with every tail whack like that. But it also gets a good roll going on too. Yeah,
cool.
So how I was rigging them, I would just go straight. I would put a jig head on there, because I find that would hold it properly, and then it would be about a 9.0, 10.0 jig head. But from that, I would take this little corkscrew off here, and then just split ring it straight to the jig head down the bottom here. And then I'd have your assist hooks there. You'd have a assist hook here and an assist hook there.
Cool. So about a 9.0 or a 10.0, and I assume in about a 1.5?
1.5 to 2 ounce.
So 1.5 to 2 ounce, 9.0 or 10.0 jig head in the top, rigged with the Irukandji tackle, the Osprey rigs down the bottom, and that double treble really helps the hook up, right?
Yes, definitely. That rear treble, I owe that to a lot of my success.
Yeah, righto. Yeah. And I noticed there's also a rattle, which if you put up to the mic here, might be able to hear it.
Yep, so that rattle.
Yeah.
You can hear that?
There we go. He knows. There we go. He knows how to do it.
So I'd find if they sort of need something to stir them up, that was good. But if they like something a bit quieter, all you do is just pop that straight out.
Yep,
and now you've got a silent lure. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome. And with the Shimmer Pros, same thing as the Molexes, you upgraded the rings and trebles as well?
Rings and trebles, straight upgrade them, and then they were good to go like that. They're another lure that has a really good action, and I don't think they get enough love, so I would definitely recommend trying them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that covers almost all of our lures, but we've got a couple here that maybe some people also haven't used too often. You've got some Barra Classics and you've got some PT 150s. Now, you said you caught a lot of fish on this stuff here, so how come we've got these guys?
Right, well, anyone who knows Mondi, they know that the PT 150 works. That catches a lot of fish too. So, because there's a lot of gar in there, I find that the white with the gold body, something like that, would really fire them up too. It's something different. And with them, it's good because you can go either a 1.5 or 2 ounce head to change the different depths that it would sit at.
Yeah, cool. And you've also got a red colour here, so you also got bit on him?
Yep, so I definitely got bit on the red guy here because I found with a couple of the fish that I caught, they actually had red claws in their mouth.
Yeah, right, so maybe just that red.
So that red, they were feeding on that in those areas, and that was enough to trigger the bite.
Yeah, cool. And with the hard bodies here, the Barra Classics, obviously not a very subtle lure. It's not a finesse lure. It's very loud, very noisy. So what was the go with that?
So I'd find once that sun's come up pretty high, a lot of your barra would sort of shut down and they didn't want to chew. So what I would do, I would go through a few different lures and I found my Barra Classic, the Old Faithful.
Yeah.
Now here's a lure that makes a noise and he is going to really annoy the barra. So if you listen to this, you hear that going past you, you're going to get cranky. You're going to be like, oi, shut up, come on.
So basically, these fish that were eating this, maybe they're not a hungry fish. They're not actually actively feeding, but you're chasing a reaction bite. You're trying to annoy them. It's more of a territorial bite, get out of my face bite.
Yeah, that's definitely what it was.
Cool.
And it worked. Look, I done a couple trolls with a 10 foot. I got 2 fish on that. Then it sort of, I'd change areas and then I'd drop it down to a 15 foot because they got 2 different depths they can run at. So I'd get the 15 footer and just get it a bit deeper and that would get another reaction bite.
So that's also a good thing to touch on. Obviously, we did say the fish was sitting around that 2 to 6 meter mark. So it is good to cover some different depths.
Yeah.
So you can run a 10 and a 15 foot, or even with some of these plastics we did talk about, you can run a 1.5 and a 2 ounce head to mix things up, or a slightly heavier lure. Or even let more line out.
Yeah.
The more line you let out to a certain point, it will get that lure deeper.
Exactly.
So you can try that.
If you run it out further, it's going to drop down in the water column. But if you run it in closer, that's going to keep it up a bit higher. So if they are sitting up high, that higher one will get the bite, where the lower lure, it won't get the bite. So.
Yeah, so that's a great little tip. Make sure you're mixing up the lures where they're sitting in the water column. It could even be the same lure, just how much line you've got out even.
Exactly, that's it.
Another question is bite times. Did you find any consistency over the weekend of when these barra were feeding? Now, we know that the Clan River tide change is usually a good little indicator, but you've also got moon rises, moon sets, moon aboves, barometric pressure changes, wind changes, all of it. Did you find any of this stuff played into account?
For sure. So on Saturday, it was blowing northerlies consistently all day, and it was getting stronger and stronger as the day went on. By the end of the day, you were getting white caps throughout the whole bay.
Yeah.
And it got a bit hectic, but I found the fish were a lot less concerned with what was happening because of all that noise and everything on the surface. So I found that bite was better actually while it was like that.
So just with the stronger northerly made them really chew on Saturday.
Yes.
And anything with tide changes on Saturday?
So then with the tide changes, say the Bundaberg River tide change there.
So the Clan River, the Bundaberg Bridge.
Bundaberg Bridge.
Bundaberg Bridge.
Yeah, Bundaberg Bridge. That would be the one that I would look at, say roughly about an hour after the tide change is when that would come into effect at Monduran.
Yeah, right. So you're finding an hour after.
Yeah, an hour after seems to be the sweet spot. Yes.
Yeah, cool. So
then you got Sunday, we had that southerly move in, and
Correct.
it was a lot tougher fishing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another thing. You always got to pay attention to what the wind's doing and if it's been blowing like that for a few days.
Yeah. And now something I'd like to touch on is when it is tough and slow on the dam, when it's very still, you do have to be very stealthy. Also, these little 1%, I like to call them, so the little tide changes or the moon rises or slight wind direction changes, when it is tough can really make a difference. So make sure you're fishing hard around any sort of little movement.
Yes.
So bit tide change, moon, whatever it is, fish hard because you never know. These barra like that. And then off even quicker.
Yeah.
So always have a lure in the water, just keep on keeping on.
That's it. You can catch one fish out of that school and then they'll shut down. You got to move.
100%.
Yeah.
Alrighty, now we've gone over a fair bit, I think. We've covered a few lures, a couple tricks, like taking the rattle out of the cast, upgrading rings, trebles, taking your blade off, cutting your fins off on the molluxes, different noises. Any tips? So for someone heading up there, is now a good time to go up to the dam still, or is it all over Red Rover? Yeah.
I would find now is the start of that sweet time. So if you're not very confident with fishing the dam, you stick down towards the front, you've got a good sounder, have a troll around with a lure out the back, because a lot of those fish are moving down from up the top and they're starting to congregate, getting ready to go over the dam wall to go breed in the salt. Because of all the rain that we get this time of year, I find, this time is the time to fish.
Yeah, now hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully these fish don't go anywhere.
We don't want them to go, so...
That's what they want to do though. The fish want to go, but we're like, no, you're staying here. You're getting to $1.20.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, now what I'm going to do, because we've gone over a few lures, Someone may not want to buy all of these lures.
Yep.
If you had to choose 2, you could only take 2 lures to the dam.
Yep.
What are you choosing?
I'm going to be choosing your Sicario DTF in the 7-inch. And then that's something that I'm just going to troll regardless. And then something else for when the bite is tough, I'm going to go something noisy to get them fired up.
Cool. So the
your
Irukandji
Barra Classic?
Sicario DTF
Yep.
and the Barra Classic. Now, the good thing about that DTF, straight out of the packet. You don't need to do a single thing to it. And the Barra Classics, you could even run them straight out of the packet, but I know you were upgrading them anyway.
I prefer to upgrade them, yeah. I don't want to lose a fish.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is always a good idea to upgrade to the best quality terminal tackle in the game, because when you're hooked up to a meter barra, they are absolutely savage. They'll find any weak point. So you do not want to do anything by halves. Everything is proper, because these fish will expose anything.
That's it. And like even leader, like we had 50-pound leader on, that would get snapped off because they would wear through it with their teeth. So what I would do, I would upgrade it and stay at that 80. That 80 seems to be the sweet spot.
80 is it. Don't run less, just 80 pound. These fish are not leader shy. They will chew their heads off. You could have been running 120.
Yeah.
So 80 pounds, stick to that. That definitely worked well for me as well.
Exactly. I've heard of dudes losing fish on 100-pound leader, so don't be shy of going extra.
Yeah, but I used to fish 60 in that place, but now it's all 80. These fish are too big.
Yeah.
They're all a meter.
Yeah. Well, you look at Adam's 122 that he got, the biggest barra for the comp so far, 1.22 m. So that's hectic.
Yeah, that's insane. Alrighty, well that basically wraps up our little barra talk with the barra buster himself. If you're after any more information, if you're fishing the dam, don't be afraid. Give us a call, swing us a message, come in store. We are your one-stop shop for anything Lake Monduran.
Yep, that's right, Corey. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you.